Welcome back to the Bears Talk Podcast. I'm back with another episode. Waking up this morning to LaMelo Ball on his way to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's talk about it. So in this trade, the Charlotte Hornets are trading LaMelo Ball and Josh Green to Minnesota for Naz Reid, a 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps in 28, 29, and 30, and 3 second-round picks in 29, 32, and 33. So, very shocking. Very shocking. I went to bed last night, saw the report of just like LaMelo Ball, and it was Minnesota and God, what was the other team? It was Minnesota and another team that was interested in LaMelo Ball, and then I wake up and he's gone and he's traded. So let's start out from the Charlotte Hornets side of things. So for me, Charlotte, I don't like this move at all. I like Naz Reid as a player, and you're getting a ton of first-round draft picks for him. This could be a quote-unquote like selling high on LaMelo Ball, somebody who's had injury troubles the past couple of seasons. But it's also to the point where it's like, for me, I'm looking at it like, was it him actually being like super, super hurt? Not saying like he was like faking injuries or anything else like that, but like the Charlotte Hornets were bad. It just made more sense for LaMelo Ball that was going to help them win games. They're tanking, so let's have LaMelo Ball just sit out the rest of the season. Wasn't more so how much of it was like he's like hurt rather than like they're just trying to be bad, so they're just protecting the injury, everything else like that, extending the injury to make sure he gets back to a full 100% because they're more in a position to win games anyways. But you get a full healthy season from LaMelo Ball pretty much. Charlotte really turns the corner in the back half. You see this like fun, one of the best offenses in the league with LaMelo, Khan, Brandon Miller, Bridges. You bring Kobe White in at the deadline. Like looking at the Charlotte Hornets, they were a team that I felt like was turning the corner, and the pace of play that they were playing with fit LaMelo Ball style perfectly with the 3-point shooting, his pace and play, his playmaking, and then they move him, right? So I'm like sitting here scratching my head. I don't like this move for Charlotte. This seems like more of we got to pay Brandon Miller a big bag soon. Let's get off LaMelo Ball for financial reasons, rather than like an injury history kind of thing. Did they get a haul for LaMelo Ball? Yes, they did, because I think Naz Reid fits their system perfectly, and you get some unprotected first-round picks that could be very valuable down the line, depending on how this situation in Minnesota ends up. But it's just like, for a team in Charlotte that has pretty much just been bad throughout my entire life, first time they've been relevant since Kemba Walker days, to trade LaMelo Ball now, it's like, I just don't really mess with it. I don't really like it. I feel like he's such a good cornerstone piece to have on your team. It fits what you want to do so perfectly to where it's like, this was just like a forced thing. They were thinking too deep into it. I think when you're looking at how high they could be on Concanipple, I think Concanipple is a great movement shooter. But I think he's going to take a hit not having somebody like LaMelo Ball in the court, somebody who can play make, somebody who can also space the floor. Now defenses, yes, you brought in Naz Reid. He doesn't have the same impact on the game as LaMelo Ball does. From a playmaking standpoint, pushing the pace, controlling the pace, scoring standpoint, like LaMelo Ball to me is still such a valuable player in this league at his size, and what he's able to do on the basketball court, to where Charlotte had, I feel like, the perfect thing going with him, Khan, Brandon Miller. Like they had such a good thing going with those three going forward, and I feel like they traded him too early. I wouldn't even have traded him at all, actually. Like, looking at this trade, I feel like Charlotte jumped the gun on this way too early. Yes, you got some valuable first-round picks in Naz Reid, but it's just like, I feel like this makes you worse going into next year. Not having LaMelo Ball on the team, you draft Christian Anderson Jr., who in my eyes, yes, is a great player. Somebody that's going to be good coming off the bench, but now you push Kobe White into your starting point guard spot probably. Unless you make some other kind of move. I know Miles Bridges is probably on the block, so maybe this is an altering move where they get off LaMelo Ball, but they bring in, like, say, John Morant, for example. Like, I don't think John Morant fits this team like LaMelo Ball, but maybe they're just shuffling the deck, getting something more tailored towards Brandon Miller, Concanipple, going forward. But they do have Miles Bridges an expiring contract about like $20-something million, so they can, and they have draft picks to go make something happen and go get another point guard. Who that point guard is, we do not know yet. But it's just so interesting from Charlotte. I feel like I wouldn't have made this move if I'm Charlotte. I just really liked him in Charlotte. For me personally, I feel like his pace of play, the way he's able to just control that pace. I feel like a big reason Charlotte's able to play with the pace that they play with is because of LaMelo Ball being able to push the ball up the floor, play make, and the way he scores the ball as well. It's such a great feel for the game. I feel like Charlotte, this is a bad move for them. I think they're going to go into next year worse. I just don't really like them getting off LaMelo Ball here. I think I would have loved to see them running back with LaMelo Ball, Kobe White, Christian Anderson, Khan, Brandon Miller, Hans Steinbach, Kalkbrenner, Diabate. You probably could have moved Miles Bridges for something and then brought in like Rui Hachimura or something like that, or traded him, or possibly even in Trey Murphy talks. But to trade LaMelo Ball is so interesting to me. So interesting to me. I got to see how it plays out and see how Charlotte pivots off this move, because there's some other things they could do to go get somebody like a John Moran, like I said, or another point guard out there on the market. But let's see how this unfolds in the next handful of days, possibly for the Charlotte Hornets. But right now, I'm not a big fan of LaMelo going to the Wolves and leaving Charlotte from their perspective. Getting into Minnesota's perspective, you had to do something, right? You had to make some kind of big time swing. You miss out on Giannis. I don't really think you were ever realistically in Jaylen Brown talks, as Boston would have wanted McDaniels from you. But man, this is a aggressive move. Kind of getting rid of all your future draft capital going down the line. Now you're looking at LaMelo, Ayodosumu, Anthony Edwards, McDaniels, and Rudy Gobert. I always thought Rudy Gobert was going to be the staple. I always thought it was going to be pretty much anybody outside of Rudy Gobert, Jeremy McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards could go, realistically, because Rudy Gobert just anchors down that defense so much. But they always needed a point guard. They always needed a dynamic point guard next to Anthony Edwards, and LaMelo Ball is just that. His three-point shooting ability, pace of play, kind of talked about all of that LaMelo brings to the table with Charlotte. He can bring that same thing to Minnesota, an offense that can get kind of stagnant at times. You're offering a real true number 2 option. And I think in Charlotte, he was kind of like more so the one, depending on like Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller's still a super young player, but putting him in the 2 spot now with Anthony Edwards there, still having McDaniels, Ayodosumu, who you just paid a bag to. I think Minnesota, this makes them a lot more dangerous. And this is a team that went to back-to-back Western Conference Finals just because you have more scoring impact on this team with LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Ayodosumu, McDaniels. Now you have a lot more versatility, and you have a lot of young up-and-coming talent off that bench. I really love Terrence Shannon Jr. I feel like he's going to benefit the most from playing with somebody like LaMelo Ball in that pace and the space and like everything that they get downhill, pushing the pace, getting the ball in transition. Terrence Shannon Jr., when he gets in transition, is a problem getting to the basket. I feel like he's going to benefit a lot. Still have J, who we still got to see more in the actual rotation from next season, has the backup 5-man. Naz Reid Hurts, fan favorite. Love Naz Reid in Minnesota. But I feel like he's also going to a good situation over there in Charlotte, to where it's like he fits definitely what they want to do over there. Gives them another bigger 4 that can really have some skill to them and stretch the floor as well. But LaMelo Ball is the move they needed to make. I feel like the team kind of hit their ceiling with Randall, Gobert, Naz Reid, and Anthony Edwards. This gives them, I feel like, more upside as a team, having somebody of LaMelo Ball's caliber at the point guard spot. Interested to see what else they do, because they don't really have a whole lot of draft capital left. But if anything, pairing LaMelo Ball up with Anthony Edwards fits that age gap and that timeline. They got younger with this move as well. In terms of getting off Randall, bringing in LaMelo Ball, kind of reshaping and restructuring this team. I'm high on the Minnesota Timberwolves going forward. I think if they can get a really good 4-man with a trade, if they still have Dante DiVincenzo, who they could possibly move, because he's not really going to be anything for them next season due to the injury. So if they can get some kind of power forward play, which I definitely think they can go out there and do, I'm really high on this team, because I think they have some young, intriguing guys off that bench. You brought in Isaiah Evans off the bench too, and I feel like he's going to be a really good plug-and-play guy right away with his shooting and defensive ability. I'm high on this move for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They needed to make a move. They needed to shake up the roster. I feel like they hit their ceiling with the Cat stuff and the Randall stuff, and I feel like they were always going the wrong direction in terms of a second option, get more of a bigger forward next to Anthony Edwards. Let's see how it looks with the guard and LaMelo Ball being the second option. I know you have the injury concerns, but if he's healthy, I mean, Jesus, like this offense is going to be a lot better than it was the past couple of seasons, more consistent in my eyes. And you're pairing him up with somebody like Rudy Gobert that can still anchor down that defense, point of attack defender, and McDaniels as well. I'm not too worried about the defense taking a step back at all, because you have Randall, not Rudy Gobert, McDaniels. I would assume is a good defender. Anthony Edwards can be a plus defender when he wants to. And LaMelo Ball has size. It's not like you're bringing in 6-foot guard to go up against the bigger guards of San Antonio or the defensive guards of OKC. You're bringing in LaMelo Ball, bigger guard that I feel like is going to fit just right in Minnesota. Love this move for the Minnesota Timberwolves. In my opinion, I think they fleeced a little bit. I know you look at the draft capital and the picks and everything else like that. Got to see how those picks turn out to be. But I'm looking at right now what Minnesota wants to do and get Anthony Edwards back into the conference finals, NBA finals picture, possibly going forward. And I think LaMelo Ball is a really good get. Somebody that's young, electric, can be a number 2 option. I think this is a really good win now push for the Minnesota Timberwolves because they're really not worried about future draft capital because they still have Anthony Edwards. Shannon Jr. is young. LaMelo Ball is young. McDaniels is still young. Like Baron J's still young. Like they have a good young core in place, and they already have a superstar caliber guy in Anthony Edwards. So they're not really too concerned with losing their picks. And I saw some stuff on Twitter. It's like now they're in the realm of like the Suns and the Clippers of like not having a whole lot of draft capital. The Clippers is different because the Clippers gave up all their draft capital and had an old ass team. So I'm looking at the Clippers, and that's a little bit different of a situation because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were already over 30 by the time that they gave up all their first round draft capital. And then looking at the Suns, it's like they messed up by going and trading for an older star in Kevin Durant, and gave up picks to do so and young talent to do so. So I think in terms of trades that happen where you're giving up future draft capital, getting somebody that is younger, is a star in this league, all-star caliber player plus, and LaMelo Ball, I'm fine with it because he's going to be on this roster for the next couple of years while you do have these picks because he is young. I have a problem with it when you're trading all these picks for an older, aging star that's a little bit aging out of their prime. That's why I think it can kind of get tricky when you're these teams that are trying to go all in. I think doing it for an older guy can really make things tricky for you down the stretch. But getting a younger guy when you already have an established young star in Anthony Edwards and a young core around it, I'm fine with it. But for me, I think Minnesota really came out of this trade as winners. Also adding Josh Green in this trade, a good rotational piece as well. I really like where they're going. That makes me think if Josh Green's in this with Io, you're probably moving off DiVincenzo at some point this offseason to try to make something happen at that forward spot because I think they definitely need some more size at that position. But that's all I have for this episode of the Barrel Talk Podcast. Charlotte, we got to see what happens with their next couple of moves to see how this LaMelo Ball thing shakes out. Don't really like the trade. I like that you got a haul for him, and I like Naz Reid going to the Charlotte Hornets as well. But it's just like LaMelo fits in Charlotte so much of what they're doing. Got to see those other moves that they pivot to. But for Minnesota, had to make a big-time swing. LaMelo's that big-time swing. Young, electric, fits right next to Anthony Edwards in that backcourt. I'm going to love to see them play next season and see what else Minnesota can do this offseason. But that is all I have for the Barrel Talk Podcast. Hope you tune in the future episodes.